This is Animal Health Insider, where we bring you the real news, real insight, real voices from inside the industry.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Animal Health Insider. I am joined again this week with our group of insiders here. I've got Beatrice Voss, Stonehaven Transactions. Hi, Beatrice. And then I have Joe Harvey. Hi, Joe. Joe from S&P Global Animal Health. You guys know who these folks are. No need for introductions, right?
No.
See episode 1.
See episode 1. Beatrice, where are you sitting today?
I'm in Brussels, in Belgium. Beautiful Belgium. It is
love Brussels.
Dark, rainy, and cold.
Okay, well, maybe I don't want to be. Maybe I don't. Joe, are you in London, and is it the same?
It's dark. It has been rainy, but I cannot confirm now if it's still. It is. I can see a puddle with rain.
Okay, well, that's London.
Hopefully, throughout the weeks, months, and years, this podcast can be a good barometer to what season it is outside. If you see it gloomy and shivering at the microphone, then it's winter. If we're all in t-shirts and looking a bit more rosy faced, then it must be summer.
And maybe we can relocate this podcast. Maybe like we're all in Key West. We could do like a Key West themed. Because, there's a lot of animal health happening down in okay, maybe Orlando, but yeah, that's right. Well, thank you guys for joining me today. We're going to do our usual thing where we're going to talk a little bit about a special topic that is related to our guest. And we have the one, the only, that I like to call the grande dame of animal health, Dr. Linda Rhodes.
Now, she's really the pioneer of bringing the whole female empowerment movement, if you want to call it that, to animal health. And such a long time ago, right? I mean, the fact that she founded Feather in Her Cap, which, to those listeners who don't know, is an amazing award in the animal health industry that recognizes women who are extraordinarily successful in the animal health industry, but also support other women on their journeys. And
that's right.
Nothing comparable exists for men. I think it is actually the award that's kind of the Oscars of the animal health industry. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really great that she started that. And of course, Feather in Her Cap is much more than that annual award ceremony. Right. So it's really, that and also Wilma and other organizations are really instrumental in raising awareness for women's issues and supporting women and pursuing their careers, which is right up my alley. I love it.
Yeah.
Right.
Linda's fantastic in the way that if you can be at an animal health event, she'll be debating the CEOs, she'll be questioning the people on stage, right. And then 5 minutes later she'll be huddled in the corner nurturing a CEO of a startup, telling them, you could be doing this, you've got to meet so and so, and then you can have a really free and open chat with her about anything in animal health, and she'll be opinionated and fearless in who she wants to criticize or who she wants to praise. It doesn't feel has enough praise, and in a lot of cases that might be female members of a team or leaders of a startup, and she'll be a champion of so many different people. At the Feather in Her Cap Awards in Orlando is like the Oscars of animal health, and you look around the room and say, there's that person, there's to the point that I went last year and I didn't think I even spoke to Linda because there were so many people there, and she probably just sits at the back and thinks, wow, yeah, we brought together all of these excellent people in animal health, and it's just
it's the who's who.
So much so I would just want to stop the awards and just say, can I just interview everyone in the room?
Then you're done for the year, John. You can go on holidays.
Yeah, we're going to start rotating you around to each table.
And it's also nice how they expanded, right? Initially it was the Feather in Her Cap Award, which still exists, but now we have the the High Flyer Awards. Then we have the Entrepreneurial Spirit
Entrepreneurial
Award.
Spirit, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really nice that like the more the emerging talent is being recognized, then like the startup CEO is being recognized. I think it's a really nice expansion of the group of women that deserve to get recognized.
And they even added this year a champion award. So someone champion. Yes, an ally award, which is
really
cool
because
it opens it up to everybody, which I think is a bit of the point, right? Is we want to be accepting. Yes, we're recognizing women because there was a time, and we're going to ask Linda about this. Kind of tell us about some of those early days. And so I think the feather in her cap has been really key, and she's been. I mean, we talk about feather in her cap, but Aratana, and I mean, my gosh, oh yeah. Did you work on that Aratana deal?
I did work on the first one, and I met her. So the first Aratana deal that Elanco did was the Gallopant license, right? Yeah. So we looked at the whole company and the various products, and then we entered into a license agreement on Gallopant. And she was in the room and managing presentations. She was surrounded by. I mean, I think she and I were the only women in the room. And
I'm sure
she was so impressive. I was sitting there thinking, oh my God, I want to be like her. Yeah, she was really good.
That's awesome. And I do like, Joe, you mentioned the word fearless. Boy, I think that's a great word for her. I would also say, resilient, relentless. She just wait till you read this book. I mean, she has a brand new book out. We're going to talk to her about her book. It is entertaining. I mean, way more than I was thinking. Okay, she's going to tell us some great stories and really talk about how difficult it was. Yes, and she tells you a lot about her early life and just being very vulnerable. In kind of how she made her way in those early years. So I wonder, do you guys have any reflections? I mean, we talked about fearless. Any other words that pop in your head when you're thinking about Linda?
I have 3.
Oh,
sorry, Joe.
You have 3.
We have to change this. So you can't always let me go first, Joe, right? I always jump in there. So there will be times when it's a gentleman first, I promise. So it's 3 things. It's mentorship, allyship, and practical support. So mentorship in a sense of career advice, like broad direction, long-term direction, where you're going. And she once told me, do me a favor and never go part-time, because if you work part-time, you only get paid partially for doing all of the work still. And that's so true, right? Because women who work part-time, and often they do when they start their families, have children. It's a topic I could talk about forever, and I have very practical tips on how that can work very well. But she said that often women then start working part-time, but they do in 3 days the work that they would otherwise do in 5 days, but they got paid for 3 days. So that was a very, very good tip, I thought, that she gave me. Allyship, find allies who support you along the way. The men in the call who call it out when you get talked over by others or when you get interrupted by others. Often men.
Except for this podcast, right?
It's the opposite.
Sorry,
right?
Joe. We'll have to watch ourselves, Beatrice, because we'll talk over the top of you.
I'll say one last thing and then shut up and give the floor to Joe. Just practical support, right? And how can I do things with? She has children, right? So how can you combine your family life with a rewarding career and practical things around working from home and traveling when necessary, but not traveling when not necessary? I mean, she's just very generous with practical life support, and that is also extremely, extremely valuable. Yeah.
Joe, what were your words?
I suppose point out there were lots of people in Linda's position working with feather in her cap, helping to set that up and helping to keep that running. And I suppose the Wilma Association as well.
That's right.
And that's fantastic, because nothing, unbeknownst, maybe I didn't know, but 10 years ago, there wasn't these awards. There wasn't this prominence of looking to support women in animal health. But then the other side of things, aside from that, and Linda will know the specific number, but she's been involved, or her fingerprints are on a crazy amount of products that have come to market over the last several years. So there's the innovation side as well. And I think everyone knows in animal health, if you want to get a sense on an idea or a project or a startup, then run it past Linda. She's always on panels. She's always discussing things with startups or involved with startups. And for me, I'll say again, I'm not the science person, but if I meet a startup, it's sometimes hard for me to evaluate if they're going to be successful. It's not actually my job to evaluate if they're going to be successful in the future, but there are little telltale sort of signs. So one of them would be, is Linda Rhodes on your board? If she is, then you've got something good going for you, and Linda can see something in you as well. And there's several people within animal health that when they become part of a company or on a board or are telling me, no, this is a startup to look out for, I listen to them. And obviously Linda's one of them. Yeah.
Before I ask you guys quickly what your questions for Linda would be, I want to touch on women in animal health, because Joe, I know you've done a couple of big stories around numbers of women in animal health. You mentioned Wilma. Wilma runs their survey now, which really I think is, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. What have you seen over the time that you've written about women in animal health?
I suppose that we have been writing articles and looking at actual data, but then I suppose that there's anecdotal evidence as well. So if I didn't know the data, there's the one big thing about 5 years ago, or probably actually nearly 6 years ago, maybe, Kristen Peck became the CEO of Zoetis. That's the big news.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
That is a long time ago.
She's the most influential person, arguably, in the animal health world.
In animal health, because she's leading the largest company. Yeah, but you're right. You look at the largest animal health companies, probably even that second tier of animal health companies, there's not a lot of women sitting at the top, if any, other than Kristen.
Yeah.
So in 2016, I've got my notes here because I wouldn't remember the numbers otherwise. We looked at the senior management team and the board of directors of the top 10 animal health companies in 2016. Then we did it 4 years later, and then 4 years after that. So naturally, those 10 companies are different every time.
Yeah.
Some of those companies have their boards and their management team publicly available. Some of them you have to ask. So in 2016, 15% of those roles were filled by female executives or board members. 4 years later, it actually grew to 27%. And I thought, oh, wow, that makes for a good article. That's a good leap. It's still not many. 27% is not many, but that leap showed progress. 4 years later, it only went up 2% to 29%. Now, in that's a bit different because from 2016 to 2024, the makeup of the companies are different, but that is 8 years of 14% increase from 15% to 29%, and it seems to be slowing down. And the other,
if you look at, and I know I'm interrupting you again, Joe, and I apologize for that. If you look at the like, if you just look at Europe for a moment, that's European Women on Board regulation, which says in listed companies at least 30%. So 30% is the minimum
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And when we're saying 29% here. Yeah.
exactly. So
Mm,
it's yeah. So the industry is probably obviously below the overall standards, huh?
Yeah. And Joe, when will you do this again?
Well, we had been doing it every 4 years,
Yeah.
just to give it enough time for there to be enough change. But there's no reason why. It's been a year since we've done it, so I'd say maybe in a year's time,
Yeah.
so
do
2
it
years, do it again. And even obviously, as a journalist, I'm always looking for like trends. Well, it's gone down, it's gone up. But actually,
Yeah.
if it stays the same, that's a story as well. The one thing I would say, and I don't have any data behind this, well, I have seen commitments from
Mm-hmm.
Zoetis, Elanco, the companies, to employ more females in a more senior role, and also from Merck and BI from their parent groups as well. So there has been more commitment. There has been reports, press releases stating this, whereas before maybe it wasn't ever mentioned. And the other side of things is startups. And again, only anecdotal evidence, but I do feel like when the first few animal health startups were created, there was majority male CEOs, but there are so many female CEOs now. They're obviously, Aratana had a really female-led team. And I know so did Kindred Bio and Putney as well.
Yeah.
But I do see more now, but maybe that's just because there are a lot more animal health startups.
That's great. I think I agree. I think Linda Black, we've got Selena Loyal, there are, Tammy at Elias. We're starting to see it. So I think
it's a great trend.
I think the next generation, there are a lot of women potential to move up.
Guys, thank you for this discussion. I know I need to go talk with Linda Rhodes. Do you have a quick question for her before I let you go? Just one?
I have a question for you.
Oh.
I have a question for you. So which breed really enjoys a nice bath? And a little hint, it's a canine breed.
That enjoys a nice bath?
Nice bath, yeah.
I don't know.
I get the sneaking suspicion this is a bad pun.
A shampoodle.
Da-dun-ch.
We love your bad
animal jokes.
We love your bad animal jokes. Okay, send me your questions for Linda. I'm dying to know what you guys want to ask. And thank you again for having some good conversation. This is an important topic. So we will dive in now with Linda. So thank you guys.
Good to see y'all.
Always good to see you.
See ya. Bye. Hi, Linda Rhodes. It's good to see you.
Hi, Julie. It's great to be here.
I am so excited that you've joined us on Animal Health Insiders. I think you may know this, but you were on my short list of dream guests. So thank you for accepting. I am seriously excited to have you here because I think when we talk about pioneering legacy, your name comes up. It certainly did when we had a discussion about you with the Insider Group. And as you know, that's Beatrice and Joe. And we have so much to talk to you about today. So I want to jump right in because you have a new book. And you've been a published author, especially in the animal health realm and the veterinary realm. But this is an interesting book. I got a first read of it. Thank you very much. And it's fun. It's a really fun read.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I have a copy right here. This is the title is Breaking the Barnyard Barrier. A Woman Veterinarian Paves the Way. And if you look at the picture, my son says I kind of look like Top Gun striding along in the with the cows with my dark glasses on and my coveralls. And this is me at 30 years old. So Yeah,
That's
it's
so
the story
awesome.
of my 5 or so years being a dairy cow veterinarian in Utah.
And it's really even broader than that, isn't it? Because I was thrilled to read the book, and my first thought was, okay, you're going to have some really cool stories in there, a lot about veterinary industry and being a woman in animal health. No, you had a lot about your life in there. I would love to know why. Why did you choose to write the book? And also, why be so vulnerable? There's some vulnerable stories in there.
Yeah, my mother died when she was 58. That's part of the story in the book of breast cancer. And I was in my 30s, and I just hadn't asked her about her life. I didn't really know much about her early life. I didn't know why she gave up going to college to get married. I didn't really understand. I didn't know how she and my dad met. I just, there were many stories about her life and her legacy that I just didn't know. And in my 40s, I had a son. And at that point, I was in the pharmaceutical industry. I was the dairy world. This dairy world was long gone. And I realized he's not. I could be dead by the time that he's curious about my early life. I better just write it down. I better start writing it down. The real motivation, and I dedicate the book to him, is
Mm.
these stories would be completely lost if I didn't write them down. And when he's in his 40s and 50s, he may think, gee, I really wish I asked my mom about her
That's right.
life as a dairy cow vet, and I would be long gone. So anyway, that's
That's
kind of a
right.
morbid reason, but
Well, it's not though, because I think we all feel that, especially as we have a parent pass, or we start to get older, and we're in the twilight of our careers, and we go, I really want somebody to know about all the things that I experienced. And I do love reading the stories in this book. I mean, there are moments and experiences that you can clearly see probably shaped you as a leader. What Maybe give us a moment or two that stick out in your mind from the book.
yeah, I think one of the things I wanted to convey is the tension between believing that I could do the job and having the whole culture tell me I couldn't. And so there was always this underlying fear of maybe they're right. Maybe a woman doesn't really belong in the barn, and maybe these cowboys, their skepticism is well founded. And then on the other hand, I was like, no, I can do this. I mean, I can do this. And the first story I tell in the book, the prologue, is about the first cesarean section I did. And I was an intern at Utah State University, and I'd never done a C-section on my own. I'd watched a C-section, but I'd never actually done one. And I got a call in the middle of the night. The cow was having trouble. I got there. There were a bunch of cowboys that were extremely skeptical of this young woman, veterinarian, showing up in the middle of the night. And sure enough, the cow, had a big bull calf, and it was not going to come out. And I struggled and struggled, and finally decided to do the C-section. They were really annoyed with me. They were like, "Come on, why can't you just pull it out?"
Just pull that thing out. Come on.
And so I went out to the truck, and I was like thinking, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I kind of remembered what the textbook said, and I just talked myself into the fact that I could do this, even though I was terrified. And I made I gave the lidocaine block, and I made the incision, and I got the uterus, and things were I was feeling kind of frantic, and I cut open the uterus, and I reached in and grabbed the first 2 legs I could find, and had the cowboys put the chains on them and try to pull the calf out, and the calf wasn't coming out. I was like, what's going on? And suddenly I realized, oh my God, I have a front and a back leg. You can't pull a calf out sideways from this incision. So I quick readjusted. I put the chains on the 2 front legs, and I turned the calf's head around, and they pulled him out, and he was a giant bull calf. And, I was in tears. I didn't let them see that I was in tears, but I was just like, so glad that I saved the calf, and I saved the cow, and and it just kind of illustrated that you just got to do it. And in spite of your fears, in spite of your feelings of inadequacy, because I was actually in that barn for all women veterinarians. It wasn't just me. if I had failed, if I had screwed up, if the calf had died or the mother had died, everybody would have heard about it. And people would have
That's
said,
right.
you see, women can't do this kind of work.
That's right.
So that,
That's a lot of pressure, Linda. That's a lot of pressure. It's one thing everybody experiences. Hey, some imposter syndrome, man, woman, anybody, right? You get this imposter syndrome, but you're carrying this for everybody now, which is a lot. That's a lot.
I like to tell the story of I sat next to I was the only woman large animal vet in the whole state. And I sat next to a guy at Utah State Veterinary Medical Association meeting. He was a small animal vet. And he said, yeah, women really don't belong in this profession. He said, I hired a woman once a long time ago, and she just didn't work out. So I would never hire another woman. And I just looked at him. I said, did you ever hire a man that didn't work out? And he said, oh, yeah, plenty of times. There's some really, bad, inadequate guys. And I guess I just am not a great judge of character. And I've had to fire a number of them. And
oh, my goodness.
and I just looked at him and I said, so you would never hire another woman, but how come you would never hire another man? I mean,
yeah, that does not compute, does it?
It does not compute. So, there was just this big cultural kind of prejudice that I was fighting an uphill battle against.
It's really interesting. One of the words that Joe used to describe you is fearless. Joe's fantastic. And he's right. I mean, that is a fearless act, to go in and to try to find a job. I mean, relentless. I said relentless. He says fearless. I think it's both, because what was your experience in the late 70s, early 80s trying to find a job?
Yeah, I mean, I really had this fantasy that I was going to find a large animal dairy job in upstate New York, which was one of the biggest dairy producing areas in the world. And my first husband was living there with his brothers playing music. And I had, I don't know, I think more than a dozen job interviews. And it was just a disaster. I mean, they told me women can't do the job. I'd never hire a woman. My wife wouldn't tolerate it if I was riding around in the truck with a woman. I just flat out hit a brick wall. And, people like to talk about the glass ceiling. I call it a dense layer of white men. It was just impossible.
Yeah.
And I ended up going up to California and getting a California license and thinking maybe I could get a job there. That was even worse. They were even nastier to me. I had one job. I went for one job interview that the veterinarian walked in the room and refused to talk to me. I mean, wouldn't even talk to me.
Wow.
So I had to get a job in a small animal practice for a while, and just because my student loans were due, and I needed to make some money, and I almost gave up at that point. I really came close to giving.
I wondered what, at that point, what inside you says, keep going, because that's tough.
I just really wanted the rural lifestyle, and I had all this knowledge. That I'd worked for all my years in vet school. I'd taken all the dairy courses. I'd ridden with the dairy vets. That was my focus, and I just couldn't give it up. I was very fortunate that I got an internship at Utah State University, and the only reason I got it was because the big, tall, blonde Mormon guy that had gotten the job in May, by the middle of the summer, got kicked by a cow and broke both his legs.
Oh. Wow.
And so there was an opening, and it was for an internship. So it was for a new grad, and all the new grads already had jobs. And I went out to Utah and begged for that job. And as my boss told me after a couple of weeks, he said, well, we've looked everywhere. We've re-advertised the position. We don't have anybody else applying. We're really desperate. I guess we're just going to have to give you a chance.
So in today's terms, we might call that an ally. I'm not sure. But I think, there is, as you kind of made your way back in those days, was there such a thing as an ally? Did you find allies?
Who was allies is the dairymen. Because the dairymen, there were very few large animal vets. And when I would drive up to Grace, Idaho, for an emergency, I was the only game in town. And when I showed up, they needed me, and I could do the work. I delivered triplets by C-section on one farm. There's a chapter in the book about the triplets. If I hadn't have been there, that cow would have died. So they were interested in results. They were not interested in whether I was a man or a woman. They were interested in, can I take care of their cows? And they became my allies. They became, if they hadn't have supported me, I couldn't have practiced there. And they really did support me because they were really grateful that I showed up. And I developed some really nice relationships with the dairymen. And by the end, they were bragging that the lady cow vet was taking care of their cows because cool. I was unique. I was the only woman large animal vet in the whole area, and I was good. I got to be very
clearly
good.
The best.
And so they would brag, oh yeah, that lady cow vet, she's taking care of my cows, and that was I'm a lucky one because I couldn't take care of everybody's cows. I had to turn some clients away. So, I'd go to the state fair and people would point at me. There she is. There's the lady cow vet.
Were you signing autographs? Dr. Rhodes, lady cow vet? I love it.
Yeah, it's still my email, as you know.
It is. And now I know why. I never knew why. I thought, well, that's interesting. Lady cow vet is her email. That's why.
But it was really touching that the dairymen were so willing to give me a chance. And when I did the book, I have pictures and stories of a couple of them, and I had to reach out to them to get permission to use their pictures. And several of my favorite dairymen had died, but I was able to get in touch with a couple of them, and it was just wonderful because they remembered these stories. It just brought them to life again. They told me other stories that I had forgotten. And they said, "Oh yeah, we remember. Of course, we remember you. You used to that cow on the cover of your book. Her name was Pinky."
Oh, they remembered the name of the cow. Okay, that tells you the special relationship they have with their, with taking care of their animals, which is amazing. That's fantastic. What do you hope that people take away from the book once they read it?
I think it has a wider audience than just some fun animal stories. I hope that people take away that you have to be both. You both have to have grit and the ability to just muscle through difficult situations, but you have to also be vulnerable. You have to be, you have to be willing to notice when you're, when you need help or when you need an ally. You can't muscle through everything. And I think the other point is it's really hard to be a pioneer and to have energy for a relationship. I mean, part of the story in the book is how my first marriage fell apart during this time because I just couldn't juggle both. And I didn't even have a child at that point. I was just juggling a really, really demanding job, and there was just no room. So the whole lean in thing, to me it doesn't work. I mean, you have to make some tough choices, and I made some tough choices. Right. And I think that's also part of the message of the book is you have to make peace with your tough choices.
That's exactly right. I think about you during that time and you today. Beatrice had a really good question. She said, what I would love to know is, what does the Dr. Rhodes of today, what kind of advice does she give the Dr. Rhodes of 1978? And is there a piece of advice that you probably would have ignored from your older self?
Yeah, I mean, I would basically say make time for the people in your life, no matter how much work you have to do. And I couldn't have done that back then. I couldn't have listened to that because I was proving myself for all of womankind,
That's right.
But it's really good advice. You've got to have a balance. And I learned that the hard way. But I think that's the advice I probably wouldn't have listened to, but I think it's really important. And what I really like now is that I see women insisting on work-life balance. I see women in the corporate world and in the startup world basically saying, yeah, we have to work hard, but we have to have some time for our families. We have to have some time for ourselves to heal, to regenerate our energy. So I think that's really the lesson that came with my advanced old age, is that, relationships are important. Take time.
That's really good advice, and it's something that I think a lot of us have this conversation, and not just women, men too. I'm hearing more, especially younger men, who are really involved with their kids, and thank goodness I finally found a husband that that was really dedicated to the kids, and really helped me grow in my career by being able to take on so much of that. Do you think it's getting better? Do you think that corporations are starting, especially in animal health, as we zoom in on animal health, are there more opportunities, as you've seen, for women to step in leadership roles, to be able to have a little bit of balance?
I'm not sure, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly see Kristen Peck modeling that kind of leadership. I mean, she talks about her kids, she talks about her family. She's creating a culture at Zoetis where work-life balance is important. Zoetis has won a lot of awards for that particular for how they're treating women and balancing, your family life with your work life. But overall, I think we're kind of going backwards. I mean,
Really? How so?
Because, well, during COVID, there was a lot more flexibility because of the stay at home. More and more companies are putting pressure on people to come back to offices. There's this culture in the tech bro world of, working 12 to 18-hour days, 6 days a week.
Right.
And it's kind of like get with the program or get out, which gives no room for people that want balance. So I think we're kind of on a tipping point, and it's a place where we have to push harder to insist that we have this kind of balance, because I'm not confident that it's not linear. I mean, I think it got better for women.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not linear, getting better all the time. I can see it backsliding, and I'm kind of concerned about that. I think the message often is, you need to be here. You need to be in the office. You need to be, working on the weekends. You need to be answering your emails. You need to be available. My son is an attorney. I certainly see it in the legal world. It's just 24/7. So yeah, I'm not terribly optimistic about it right now. I think we still have to continue to push.
I think one of the things that you've done, which has been extraordinary, is around recognizing the achievements of women, being an advocate, which I think just, it lifts all boats. It helps that conversation of why, providing more flexibility to ensure you've got a good representation of women in the workforce and you're giving them opportunities. You've done a really good job, along with some other amazing women in animal health, creating the Feather in Her Cap organization. Tell us a little bit about Feather in Her Cap. What year are you all in? And I know, is it I was to say, I think you're coming up on 10 years. I think, and I remember sitting in the audience for the very first one. I think it was Orlando, was a museum or something we were in. Yes. Yeah. And it was like the first time that I had seen anything like that in animal health. Why did you all create something like that?
Well, when I started Aratana Therapeutics, we located the headquarters in Kansas City. Because of the Kansas City Animal Health Corridor, and I knew I could hire some good people if
And I see your iron paw back.
Yeah, so up there, iron paw work. But awesome. So we found out about the Kansas City Animal Health Corridor, and I think the first year that we started Aratana, somebody nominated me for the iron paw, and at that point, was an award that was given. It's kind of a lifetime achievement award, but it had been given for several years, and only men had gotten it. And I talked to somebody who was on the selection committee, and they said to me, "This is never going to go to a woman."
Mm.
And I was kind of
That wasn't that long ago.
It was not that long ago.
We're not talking about the 70s here.
2012.
Wow.
Sure enough, the next year it went to a guy, and the year after that it went to a guy, and several people now were nominating me for it. And it wasn't just that I didn't get it, it was just no woman got it. And I just kind of got fed up with that. I was like, okay, we're going to have our own award. And
That's awesome.
I thought it was kind of a gutsy move, so I didn't really know how it would go over. So I gathered together a group of the most senior women in animal health, and I asked them, "What do you think?" And they were all, "Yes, let's do it." And I said, "Okay, you guys are all on the board of this new organization. We're going to call it Feather in Her Cap." And I said, the only rule is we can't give the award to ourselves. People don't want to think that we started an award just so that we would.
That's a good rule.
So that we would get the award. So it was.
Very ethical.
I was newly on the board of Zoetis, and I went to Juan Ramon and said, "What do you think?" He said, "I think it's a great idea. I'm going to support it." And as soon as Juan Ramon said he was going to support it, then everybody was on board. And it just started off with a bang. And we got so many nominations for the award that I think we got like almost 40 nominations, that we realized that how underappreciated women were in the industry. So the first year we gave the award to 4 different women because we just couldn't narrow it down to one. Since then, every year it's just been one for the feather in her cap. And then we started a second award for a woman who was in an earlier stage of her career. And then a few years ago, they started a third award for an entrepreneur, a woman entrepreneur. And this year, there's a fourth award for somebody who mentors women. So it's really evolved. I stepped down from the board, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, because I wanted to make sure that it continued to thrive without me running the show, and everybody stepped up, and it's just been terrific. And they've just got a tremendous amount of support every year, and it's the place to be at VMX on Monday night.
It is the who's who of animal health. I've taken some of my veterinary friends because it really is very animal health. And they're like, "Oh, wow. Hello." All the CEOs are here, and
CEOs come, all the senior executive team folks come. Many startups come because they know it's a place to see and be seen. And as a result, women get recognized, and we set it up that all the nominees get recognized. Their picture is up there, a blurb about them, who they work for, what their achievements are, why they got nominated. And it really has had an impact on women being promoted to more senior positions. There's no question, because when people see these women, even in their own companies, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know she did that. I didn't know. I had no idea that this woman was the first woman to invent a canine Lyme vaccine. I didn't know that woman was the first woman to ever, publish an article on monoclonal antibody." I mean, it raised the profile of so many talented women. And then, so that the first year we gave it to 4 people. The next year, they gave me the Iron Paw Award.
Nice.
It's like, okay, you guys got it. I'm glad you got it.
Thank you.
But what an amazing thing to a legacy of advocacy to leave. That's fantastic. Along with now we have, I think it also helped spur, WILMA, Women in Leadership and Management and Animal Health. So you guys have there's 2 great organizations working side by side to help recognize women and their achievements. And then Wilma's helping with mentoring and, having some conferences, and just a really nice 1-2 punch.
Yeah,
for the women.
Both started the same year.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Wilma
Yeah.
started exactly the same year. So there was another group of women who had a similar
Mhm.
idea, and it turned out that we're very complementary because
That's true.
Feather just gives an award. That's our job, is
Yeah.
we just give these awards. And Wilma is much more deep into mentoring and nurturing and helping women with the nitty gritty of getting ahead in their careers. And I think that's just and also gathering information and data about women's position in the industry, which is
Yeah.
really important.
So important as we talk about, really, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So I think being able to measure it is critically important.
And I think one of the cool things is because we both started at the same time, it could have been like a rivalry.
That's really true. Totally.
We need these resources, and and instead, in typical female form, we cooperated with each other. We communicated. Right. We celebrated each other. There was like, I don't think there was any feeling at all of rivalry. It was really both being excited about what the other organization was doing, and that was terrific.
That is terrific. I would love to shift gears on you a little bit here as we start to kind of wrap up our interview. So you've lived a lot of industry history firsthand. I'm interested in what you think about the future. So what you think in the next 10 years, and I love the way Beatrice and Joe put this. If you suddenly had an extra $100 million to invest only in animal health, what would you do? Is there a certain area that you would go, that you'd invest this money?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Well, I'm a little bit prejudiced because I serve on the board of 3 startups, and I'm
yeah. Who are the startups that you're on the board with?
Dalen Animal Health, which has developed the first ever honeybee vaccine.
That's right. Yeah.
Axton, which is developing AmbiFact technology for long-acting proteins and for what I like to call therapeutic vaccines, and Loyal, that's developing the first longevity drug for dogs. Wow. I think it's a really good question. It actually gets to the heart of one of the things that I think we need to fix in animal health, which is we don't have enough investment in companies that have already done some cool proof of concept work, have some really good science, maybe have raised a couple of angel rounds or, early seed rounds, and they need another $20 million to really move their technology forward. Those companies are hurting. It's very hard to get that next, like that Series A stage money.
That's right.
And one of the problems is that the big companies, there's only 4 really big companies that have R&D budgets, and they often will just sit back and wait until the little companies run out of money and then scoop them up for cheap.
That's right.
And so having money that you could infuse in that middle section of, not the tiny companies, not the big companies, but the startups that are Series A, Series B stage with really good science. I mean, that's kind of where I'd spread my $100 million out, is amongst those companies, because some of those are going to be transformative.
That's right. And only $20 million, only if we talk about human health versus animal health, $20 million would go a long way.
Yeah.
In some
you could get
medicines.
1 or more therapeutics over the finish line for that much money.
Wow.
But in terms of what is the exciting technology, Dalen has recently done some work in shrimp and shown surprisingly that their bee vaccine creates immunity to 2 very important shrimp diseases.
Wow. Which
is very counterintuitive. But it's transgenerational innate immunity. So it's you vaccinate the brood, the mother and father shrimp, and all their babies are immune. And there's some indication that it could potentially work with other species. So
wow.
Livestock vaccines, that actually Joe's publication just this week had a big article on how livestock vaccines are a very, very big category. Can you imagine a transgenerational immunity for livestock where, you just vaccinate the parents and all the eggs that are laid are immune? It could be quite transformative. So I think we don't focus a lot on vaccines, on new technology for vaccines, but I think there's some really interesting science going on in that world.
Incredibly interesting.
I think the other thing that I think about a lot is cancer, oncology. We use human drugs. They're very expensive. They're very toxic. There's a lot of really fascinating work being done on the human health side on oncology that's not making its way to animal health. And I know Zoetis has said publicly that they're investing in oncology. I think other big companies are. But I can see breakthroughs in oncology as being a big therapeutic category that we just haven't had much luck in to date.
Yeah, those are all amazing areas where I think, your thoughts about investment is critical. If you go back and listen to our first episode with Aaron Schott, he has similar thoughts around, investing and what we're kind of missing in the animal health sector. So really interesting thoughts there from two leaders. I have one fun question for you before we wrap up. So for people who followed your career throughout the years and may not know you personally, what's something they would be surprised to learn about you? And I know what I'm going to pick out because I read it in the book.
Well, I guess the fact that the thing that started this whole thing, because I was a math major undergrad. I didn't take any biology courses. And I actually had a fellowship at Wesleyan University to do a PhD in theoretical math in 1970 when I graduated undergrad.
Wow.
I was going to be a mathematician. That was my...
Okay, I'm glad you didn't go into math.
Oh, me too. But anyway, it was 1970, and it was the Back to the Land movement. And my sister lived on a commune in Northern California, and she said, come out and be part of the Back to the Land movement. And so I did. I went across the country, and I told the Wesleyan people, just hang on to my fellowship. I'll be back in a year. And I went out and moved onto this commune where I milked goats and sheared sheep and, built fences and learned how to use a chainsaw and had a big vegetable garden. And that's when I got interested in veterinary medicine, because I was really enjoying taking care of the animals, and I loved the lifestyle of being outside and working with my hands and my body and being physically active. And I called Wesley and said, I'm not coming back. And but I was quite a hippie in the day.
I wrote on my paper hippie. I was shocked to think of Dr. Linda Rhodes as a hippie, but I can see it. But I thought what you said in the book about it all started with goats. It started with goats in a commune. Wow, that's a really awesome life story. Very cool. Well, Linda, I really...
So it is about Irma the goat, and the first time I ever gave an injection, and that was what sent me on this path.
That got you on the path. Well, thank you, Irma the goat, and thank you, Dr. Rhodes. Thank you, Linda, for joining us today. I mean, this conversation, I've been excited to talk to you and to bring this conversation to animal health. I know there's going to be lots of success around the book. Help us understand how we can maybe pre-order a copy. When's it coming?
Yeah, its official launch date is February 17th next year. But you can pre-order it on Amazon or on the University of Nevada Press. It's published by University of Nevada Press. But all of the information and some great pictures from the book are on my website, which is just www.lindarhodes.com. So there's some excerpts from the book. There's some pictures. There's links to how to order it. There's links to my Substack. I'm writing a Substack called Gutsy Women, which I will interview you for.
Uh-oh. Oh, I better be careful on the questions I'm asking.
Yeah, so just go to lindarhodes.com and there's all the information. And please pre-order my book.
Yes.
I'm going to go and do some readings at veterinary colleges around the country in the spring. I'm going to the London meeting, the animal health meeting in London, and
in March. Yeah.
And the Royal Vet College has invited me to come up and read there.
Oh,
so that's
so cool.
Just going to be terrific. I'll be reading at Tufts Vet School, at Cornell, at UPenn, at Utah State University. So I'll be all over the place in the spring doing readings.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for all that you do for animal health, for women in animal health, all that you've done for me and supporting me as I've started my own, company. You gave me some fantastic advice that helped me be fearless. So I really appreciate that.
That's great. Yeah, thanks so much for all your great questions. It was fun talking with you.
You too. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.